everybody, how's it going? It's Jamie the Crafty DIY Guy. Welcome to my channel. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I am so excited about fall. Everything right now is fall. Then pretty soon we'll be doing Halloween. Then I think we'll be back in fall. And then we'll be doing some Christmas. But I'm excited. It's my favorite season. And all of these projects today celebrate fall and even, maybe a little sneak peek to some Halloween. And what's great about them is that they're all affordable. I literally did everything with these projects today, with the exception of very few materials. Almost everything is from Dollar Tree. And they're probably the things that I didn't use from Dollar Tree. They're probably things that you've got on hand already as well. So I hope that you'll be super excited about all of these. For my subscribers out there, my OGs, that just means my original gangs who have been with me from the very beginning. Thank you guys so much. If you are another subscriber, thank you as well. And of course, if you're brand new to the channel, welcome. If YouTube happened to recommend this video to you, then first of all, thank you to YouTube. And I hope that you'll stick around and enjoy the projects in this video. All right, let's get at it. All right, everyone, and for project number 1, we are going to use one of these Dollar Tree garden stakes. I picked this one up about a month ago, I would say. I also grabbed 2 of these boards from Crafter Square Dollar Tree. You could certainly use a Dollar Tree sign if you didn't have any of these. And then this is just a sheet of scrapbook paper that I picked up from Michael's. During my last haul, I bought a really large, like a book of a bunch of plaid scrapbook paper. So you'll see lots of plaid projects from me coming up, I think. All right, for the boards, I'm going to go ahead and glue these 2 together. Now you can kind of play around with that nut and figure out, where you want that to be. It doesn't really matter for this because we are covering this board completely with this scrapbook paper. Now, again, you could easily use a Dollar Tree sign as long as you found one that was the right size. So if you don't have these wood pieces or you can't find these wood pieces, no worry at all. Go ahead and just kind of sand off any of the glue that might have seeped through there. And then to help reinforce this on the back side, I am just going to take 2 popsicle sticks, the oversized popsicle sticks from Crafter Square at Dollar Tree, and I am just going to glue those kind of crossways across the back of my sign. This will just help hold everything together and just kind of reinforce it. Now remember, your scrapbook paper on the front, that's going to also kind of help hold these together, but you obviously don't want that to be the only thing that's holding these together. So the more you can help reinforce this, I think the better. And I find that this kind of style really works. Now, I'm using some good old Elmer's glue. You could certainly use some Mod Podge if you wanted to. I kind of like working with the Elmer's glue I found lately instead of the Mod Podge. I just like the way it kind of holds everything better. So I'm going to squeeze a fairly decent amount there, and then I'm just going to take my little sponge brush here, and I'm going to spread this around. I'm going to make sure that I get the center parts, but also all of those edges around that square, because that is where your paper tends to come up a lot. And you want to make sure that you're getting every single bit of those corners and edges and everything covered. That way, you don't have to worry about your scrapbook paper coming up. And again, if you wanted to use Mod Podge for this, by all means, go for it. Mod Podge, Elmer's glue. I even think just regular stick glue would work fine for this. I don't think that it'd be great for any of the, hot glue or anything, just because it's going to dry really fast and it's going to clump. And I just don't think that that would be a good use of that scrapbook paper. I did end up having to add a lot more Elmer's glue to this because it is wood, and I probably should have thought about that. So just went through one last time, gave it a good coating, and now we are ready to stick our paper directly down to the board. Now, this, unfortunately, is where I made a little bit of a mistake that I was alluding to earlier. This is a plaid, kind of a striped pattern, and I did not put this on my board straight. And I should have lined it up corner to corner, but unfortunately I did not. So I noticed it. I know some of you may notice it as well. It wasn't my best thing. I'm taking my roller here and I'm going to go ahead and roll out everything and just make sure that there's no air bubbles. This roller is a Mod Podge roller. I do work with this roller a lot. I really do like this. You can pick this up pretty much at any kind of craft store. I think I ended up grabbing this at Michael's. And after I kind of roll everything out, I'm just going to go through and roll it again and, working all of those air bubbles out and just making sure that everything is as smooth as possible. And then for the actual square, this is kind of where you will see that I didn't line it up properly, because when I went and trimmed it, it's just kind of off to one side there. But you know what? I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to make it work. Now for that pumpkin, let's first take this stick off of the pumpkin. For that, all I'm going to do is just apply a little bit of pressure, help reinforce it there with my finger, and it will come right off, which is great. Now, I'm going to also remove this little raffia bow because I'm going to put something else here. I do end up using pieces of that, so don't totally discard it. You'll see what I do with it in just a second. Now, that pumpkin is kind of, three-dimensional. It's got a raised center there, and you're going to need something to kind of help hold everything onto your board. Now, I have this oversized Jenga piece. My neighbors gave me these. They used to play games and write phrases and stuff on them, so just ignore the writing that's on there. I am going to just glue this down in the center, kind of like so. And then once that has some good hold to it, I am then going to add some hot glue to the top of that Jenga block. And I'm going to add a pretty generous amount, as you can see here. And then I'm going to take my pumpkin and I'm going to put it right on top of there. Now, warning, the hot glue is hot. It will make this metal pumpkin hot. So take another, another Jenga block or something like that. This is a smaller Jenga block, and just kind of help hold down that pumpkin and that glue until you've got really good contact. And then as far as those leaves go, you can kind of bend those up or out of your way. I'm just kind of playing with them right now while I've got everything just kind of drying and holding together. Because remember, I do need to add a little something there because I took that raffia bow off. Now, I am going to use this tube mesh, and unfortunately, this is all I got of it for the filming. You'll see what I end up doing with it in another video or another project that's coming up. But I did end up just tying a very simple bow. Then I remembered I had these great beads that I picked up at Michael's last time I went. And I loved these two colors, this cream color and then this kind of mauve-y, light orange color, I guess. So what I'm doing is I took long pieces of the raffia bow that I pulled off of there, and I am creating 2 strands of those beads. I used 4 of the small beads and then 1 of the medium-sized beads that were in that package. There's a ton of beads in that package, and I really loved all of them in there. So I'm just using my raffia again to just kind of create 2 little separate strands. I didn't have one raffia strand that was long enough to kind of do this on one long strand, so I just opted to do the 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and tie like a quadruple, triple, axle, like big, fat, juicy knot at the end of that. And I think I did this 5 or 6 times because you want it to be large enough that your beads are not going to slide off of your raffia. If you just tie a single knot, your beads are going to fall off, or at least for these beads, because these have a larger hole in it. So now that I've got that all set up with the 2 different color strands, I am going to go ahead and move those other ones out of my way. And then I'm going to tie these together to make them look like they are one strand. And because I do have some pretty long pieces there at the top, I am going to take those now and I'm going to join them with that magic bow that I created with that tubular burlap ribbon that a follower of mine sent me, a subscriber, a friend. Thank you so much for sending me that. You know who you are. And I'm just going to wrap it around here. I'm going to tie it off. And then I'm going to put a hanger on the back of this. I know I sometimes don't show this, but this is pretty much all I do for any of my hangers for my Dollar Tree items. And it works really good. Take a piece of duct tape. I cut it into 2 pieces like so. I add a little bit of hot glue down to the back. I add my tubular ribbon in this case because this was a scrap and I figured why not use it. And then while that glue is still nice and hot, I'm adding that tape on top of that because that tape is going to help hold that ribbon to the back. And then boom, you've got such a cute sign to hang on the wall. Again, the plaid paper not being perfectly straight is kind of messing with me a little bit, but overall, I'm really, really happy with this. I know myself, I probably will end up redoing that paper in the back again, but I think you all will agree. This is really, really cute. I love the beaded accent as well. All right, for our next project, we are going to create a pumpkin patch using one of these Dollar Tree houses, one package of these DIY wood stickers, one package of these tiny mini hay bales that I thought were amazing, and then I have some leftover Dollar Tree wood stumps that I thought, if you're at a pumpkin patch or sitting down maybe looking at some pumpkins, I don't know. I also had some of this thick contact paper, or not contact paper, this is it's scrapbook paper, but it's actually really, really thick. I think it might even be chalkboard paint, but it wasn't labeled or chalkboard paper, but I'm using it for a backdrop. So all I'm going to do is just trace around the house, kind of like so. I'm going to make sure that the house is lined up though, because it wasn't lined up on that left side there. So I shifted it around. Now I'm going to go back over everything. Just make sure I have a good solid line. And then I'm going to start trimming away at this. Now, for this, you obviously have to trim this smaller because it's got to fit within that house. Not a big deal. All I do is make sure I cut right on the line. I try and do that all the way around. That way I've got the shape of the house down. And then as I'm trimming it down, I will slowly, very, very slowly kind of line it up and kind of figure out about where I need to trim it. I know you can measure it. There's definitely different ways that you can go about doing this. This is a system that kind of works for me. I'm going to take some Elmer's glue again, spread it out in the back there, and go ahead and get rid of that little schmutz at the top because we don't want that there. And as you can see now, I trimmed it to the right size. Believe it or not, I did this on the first try, and I'm going to go ahead and add that. Now, if you didn't have any contact paper or you didn't want to waste it, or scrapbook paper, you could certainly paint it, but I kind of like that natural look of the frame, so I didn't want to mess up that. Now I'm going to take my little mini hay bales and I'm going to go ahead and separate these, but I thought after I was taking these out and I was kind of looking at them, they're kind of similar color to the frame and everything, I thought that it needed something else to serve as a base on the bottom of my, what would be in the pumpkin patch. I thought about using the stumps, but I ended up going with this moss sheet that I also grabbed from Dollar Tree. So I'm going to take it and I'm just going to trim it away. And for this, I'm literally just trimming it and just kind of eyeballing it. I end up getting it almost perfect here, and then I'm just going to kind of crease that one side, that one corner, and then just take my scissors and just snip that off right there. And then I did just add a little bit of hot glue and just glued this right down to the base of there. And then look, a little bit even stuck to my finger there. And I tried to stick it back, but it wouldn't. So guess what? It didn't go into the pumpkin patch. It went into the floor. So now that I've got everything kind of cleaned off, it's time to add my hay bales. So I'm going to stack these hay bales as if they were in a pumpkin patch. This isn't in a barn. It's not perfectly symmetrical and stacked and all that good stuff. So I'm kind of alternating these around and kind of playing with some ideas. And then, I have that stump piece as well that I want to try and incorporate in there. I can remember growing up and going to pumpkin patches as a kid and like sitting on tree stumps and roasting marshmallows and stuff. So I guess that's why I went with the tree stump. Afterwards, I kind of thought that maybe I should have just put another bale of hay in there, but I don't hate the tree stump at all. I think that it worked out really good, and I got one that was the perfect size, as you can see, and was able to just kind of squeeze it there in the corner. And I'm going to give it a little bit more dimension and also kind of play with the height, because this is one of the taller Dollar Tree houses versus some of the shorter, squattier ones that you can get. I would have loved to probably work with the squattier one as well, but this is okay. And now that you see everything is all glued together, you've got levels now that you can play with. So on the back of each one of these little DIY wood stickers, they have these sticker things on them. So you can just peel those off. You can put those aside. You can put them back on the plastic that you're peeling these off from and use them for another project if you want to. I am adding some hot glue, and apologies for this, but I think you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I am setting my pumpkins up on the bales of hay as if they are in the pumpkin. Now I set this little creepy one up here with the bat over into the corner, and then I decide later on, I'm like, yeah, maybe I don't want that one. I kind of like the way that these pumpkins looked, and I'm going to shift this guy around so he's kind of sitting on top of the stump. And as I'm doing this, I'm kind of building up. Now, the great thing about this is if you do change your mind, like I do with that one black pumpkin that has the bats in it, you can literally just pluck it right off of the hay bale. It's not a big deal at all. And it will come off really, really easily. Now, I loved this little glitter pumpkin. And now that I've got the other jack-o'-lanterns kind of all figured out in there, I'm going to, again, just add a little tiny bit of hot glue. I've got like trying to figure out where exactly to put the hot glue, because I don't need to put the hot glue all across the bottom of that, obviously. And so now that I've got this pretty much set up, I am loving the way that this looks. Now, remember, I said that I did go in there and I changed out that one pumpkin in the bottom corner, that bat. So now you can see I've got the orange going, I've got the hay bales going, I've got the natural wood. Now I'm going to make a bow. And I remember to film it this time. I literally love this burlap tube. I buy as much of this as I can. Yes, I am that guy. When I see it, actually, I will leave some behind. I don't buy it all, but I will buy at least 3 or 4 packages every time I can find it. I'm just going to tie a very simple bow. I'm going to pull these 2 longer pieces kind of down in the center like this, because we want to make sure that those are hanging down, and I'm going to play around with the 2 sides of my bow here, and I'm just going to even everything off, and I'm going to take this again, pulling it nice and straight. I'm going to glue this right to the top there, kind of figuring out if I like the length. I do end up trimming the length of the kind of ribbon part of that, but how cute is this? Oh my gosh, I love this so much. You could definitely put a moon or stars or something in that background if you wanted to. String lights or something like that I think would be super, super adorable in this. I am so freaking happy with this. I think I want to make an entire village of these and have them on my tiered tray. All right, and for my last DIY tonight, I am going to, or today, depending on when you're watching it, this morning, I am doing these 2 Dollar Tree signs, and I'm kind of redoing them. I'm also going to use these laser cut leaves that I picked up from Dollar Tree. And then I have 2 pieces of my favorite thing to work with lately, this scrapbook paper. I loved the 2 plaids. The one plaid, and I love the green, and I loved how everything went together. Now, rapid fire here. We are going to start separating these. First thing you'll do is peel this one or pull this one off. It will break. That is not what it was supposed to do, but at least I have one more now to play with. We're going to peel off that burlap thing that's on the front of that pumpkin. We got lucky there, so the idea here is we're going to kind of join these together like so. Again, peel off that burlappy sticker thing that's on here. You can put those aside. You can use them for another project. You are going to have a ton of glitter and schmutz and dust everywhere. But go ahead and pull out your sandpaper, because guess what? You're going to have a lot more glitter and schmutz. So just take your Dollar Tree sandpaper that I've got here and just sand it away. Get rid of all that glitter, as much as you can anyway. And you know how glitter is. I'm going to have glitter on me for the next probably 10 years. But sand that away, get as much of that away as you can, and then you're going to want to clean your work surface before you go any further. Now that I've got these 2 pumpkins, I'm going to go ahead and use that kind of pre-glittery side. You could use that nice smooth backside if you wanted to, but I'm just going to use that one side because I'm covering it up with this contact paper anyway. So go ahead, just take some Elmer's glue. Again, I'm just going to squeeze it directly onto the pumpkin itself. And then after I've kind of worked my way around with all of that, then I am going to take my sponge brush again, and I am just going to kind of spread that out and just kind of, share the wealth of the glue. And again, making sure that I'm getting it in all the corners, all the edges, all the points, all the parts, because you want to make sure that that paper is going to stick properly to your pumpkin. And again, you will want to grab that roller. So if you have your rolling pin, a brick, probably not a brick, but anything like that would work. And then I'm just gluing this down on the entire sheet of paper like you see right here. And all I'm gonna do is set that aside and let that sucker dry. I'm gonna repeat the process with the next one as well. And, figure out the best layout for the paper and everything. And then once again, adding some of my Elmer's glue. I'm going to go back through with my brush. I'm going to dab it out. I'm going to spread it out. I'm going to even get it off of the little piece of paper there that I had on the side. And I am going to make sure, once again, that all of those edges, all of those corners and everything are completely covered. That way you don't have to worry about anything else sticking or, not sticking really. So again, applying it, sticking it down, making sure it's nice and held, put on some pressure if you want, and then put it aside. Push it aside, let it dry. Now, for the next part of it, before it fully dries, you'll want to take your roller like I've got here and, roll out those wrinkles, those air bubbles. It kind of naturally happens even when you use Mod Podge, it's going to happen. So having one of these rollers is really, really key. I ended up getting this at, I believe it was from Michael's, but I've seen it at Ace Hardware. I've seen it at Hobby Lobby. I've seen it at a lot of different places. But I'm telling you, grab a wood rolling pin if you can find one of those real cheap, or even at the Dollar Tree, and use that. I've heard that Dollar Tree used to sell rolling pins, but I don't know if that's true anymore. I haven't found any anyway. Now, for your scrapbook paper, go ahead and just trim it off around your pumpkin. And as you can see, you've got two really cute pumpkins. And wow, all of a sudden, they've been covered with jute twine at the stem because I'm a bonehead and forgot to film that part. Now, for the leaves, I am going to be using the two different leaf packages. I kind of like this one that kind of reminds me of like a maple or an oak tree leaf. I was going to originally just do that, but since I wanted to have two leaves per pumpkin, I'm going to also use this longer one here in the middle. I don't know exactly what this leaf is, but hopefully it's in season with pumpkins. And if not, it's a DIY. So let's just pretend that it is. Now, the brown, icky kind of laser cut color that they are is not going to work. So I am going to pull out my favorite painting technique. I like to take a Dollar Tree washcloth and put my pieces on top of it. I'm going to get that random string out of the way. And then I have this green paint from Arteza, and I am just going to add some directly to my sponge brush, kind of like so. And then I'm just going to dab it on the laser cuts. I'm not even worried about whether I get all the way down in the middle, because having some of that brown is going to be a nice transition with those leaves. But this technique really does work pretty well, because with the sponge brush you're getting through, and then because you have the paper towel, or the paper towel, because you have the washcloth below you, that also helps with everything. So once I've got everything completely painted and ready to go, then I'm going to take my heat gun out, and we are going to use the power of the heat gun to speed up the process to get these completely dry. That way I can begin working on part 2 or part 12, whatever part we're on here. Now, while my leaves are drying, I'm going to go ahead and just add my pumpkin number 1 to that stand that I saved that I didn't break. And I'm going to put it off to one side. I probably would have done it off to the side a little bit more if I could redo this, but it's okay. It's going to work out fine. Now, for the next pumpkin, I actually trimmed away the bottom piece that would have been sticking in that little track, just to make sure that that was nice and flat. And then I added some glue, as you can see, directly to that leaf pumpkin, and then did them side by side, kind of like this. Now, for the burning of the jute, I love doing this part. I love getting all of those little frayed pieces away, and obviously you want to be careful with this. Now for the leaves, I am just going to add a little bit of hot glue directly to the back and just kind of glue them in place. I used one of each leaf on each pumpkin. Like I said before, don't know if these leaves are even the appropriate leaves necessarily for the pumpkin, but I thought it was pretty cute. So I really love the way that this looks. I think it's super, super adorable. It's a different take on kind of traditional, fall DIYs. And I think that this could look really, really cute on a tiered tray or really anywhere in your home. So, what did you think? Tell me in the comments below what your favorite project was, and also let me know in the comments what your favorite thing about fall is. For me, I think it's everything pumpkin spice. I think I could literally have everything pumpkin spice. In fact, Trader Joe's, which is one of my local grocery stores here, has a ton of pumpkin spice stuff, and I'm probably going to do a pumpkin spice shopping haul. Even if I don't share it with you guys, I probably will do it just because I like everything pumpkin spice. All right, guys, take care. Be sure to follow me on TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, all the places where you find the Crafty DIY Guy. All right, guys, thanks. Bye-bye.